This week in games, let's break down the Xbox Developer Direct. EA has failing sales, Ubisoft closes another studio, and Insomniac loses its leader. This is the Two Penny Games cast. What's poppin', players? Welcome back to the Two Penny Games cast, episode 236. I am your host, Tavin Bothel, here with my good friend and co-host. Say hello to the people, Connor Elliott.
I am here with my good friend and host, Tavin Bothel. Only time I've ever said that, I think.
It is, probably the only time you've ever said that. Don't ever do it again. All right, don't step on what I got going on.
I didn't.
Okay?
I was gonna do something more unique, but I was like, you know what? I'll just do something that's like a spin on the same thing you always do.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Two Penny Games cast. Each week, me and Connor come to you with the nerdy news you need to know concerning the video game industry. We each come to you with two topics, two pennies, if you will, and we give you our 2 cents on them. You can find this show every Tuesday, 8 a.m. Central Time, youtube.com/@TwoPennyGames, or mainstream podcast services of your choice. But if you want, we also stream all of our stuff live over at twitch.tv/TwoPennyGames every Monday afternoon, where you can watch us record the Two Penny Game Club, the Two Penny Games cast, and the Piggy Bank, our casual gaming podcast, which is so much fun to do. We just wrapped that up, and now we're getting right into the Games cast, where we're going to get into the nerdy news you need to know. But first, Connor, I'm going to know how your week's been, friend.
It's been annoying because ever since I bought this phone, like, there's been pockets that seems like the screen wasn't put on properly. I did not do it. And it hasn't gone away. And now, all of a sudden, there's 2 hairs under my screen. How'd that get in there?
You're a hairy boy.
No, that didn't make sense. How is it physically happening? It happened today. It wasn't like that earlier, I don't think.
You're pushing hair in there. You're just messy. You're
How,
not clean.
though?
You're unclean, Connor.
I can't even get anything in there. Like, even the smallest speck of dirt. A whole strain of hair.
Oh, dirt can get in there.
But hair?
Hair's tiny. Not
Not that tiny. Not to slip through the crack that's like naked to the human eye.
I mean, you can always just pull the screen protector off and put it back on.
What?
You can do that. It's not glued to the phone.
It's gonna break it.
No.
It's gonna re-adhere. It's not gonna adhere again, is it?
I mean,
adhesive
you
would be
know,
gone.
it's the bond will not be as strong as it is the first time you do it. True. Do it.
Won't that just open it up to worse possibilities?
Oh.
This is my week has sucked.
Fucking clean it.
Yeah. I can't clean it. I can't get in it. All of it's internal.
No, it very much is. You can get to all of it. You might have to have a small thin tool that you can get the hairs off of the sticky part.
All this means is that I need to know.
Not necessarily. You can always just get the phone guy to do it. It's not that big a deal.
The only time
I've always done all of mine. They're like, this one is okay, but it's just slightly off, and it bothers me sometimes. But sometimes I don't even notice.
But at least you had control over it.
Sure.
This is somebody else's. It's not my fault. I didn't put it on. I never had this problem.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, we also do a monthly video game book club called the Two Penny Game Club, in which at the end of this episode, we would review a game of yore and rank it amongst the other games in the series. That's not happening this week, but it is happening next week over at twitch.tv/TwoPennyGames and youtube.com/@TwoPennyGames. Make sure you stay tuned next week for the Monday stream, Tuesday upload of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, my personal favorite video game of all time. Where will it rank in the list? As I keep playing it, Connor, I'm becoming more assured in my statements that I've made in the past. All right?
Literally, no one needs you to play it. You could play it 5 times, and it wouldn't change what was preordained.
The only game I'd enjoy playing 5 times on the goddamn list. Fuck that.
Last of Us? You bought Last of Us more than you, almost the same amount you played.
Oh, God,
no, that's not true.
God,
Comparative to 5, when you said the number 5, you've bought
Listen, some of those games I've played 5 times. Sure.
You bought Last of Us, the original. Then you bought the PS4 version. Then you bought Last of Us 2. Then you bought Last of Us Part 1.
Now you're naming 2 different games.
These are all different. You bought them. You bought them different times.
Yes, I've bought multiple versions of a franchise of games. Yes.
And then 2 again as well. Didn't you?
It was a $10 upgrade, I believe, on 2. Yeah.
But it's a remastered version of the game?
Yeah.
I'm counting that. 5. So you've done it 5 times.
Right. But think of how many times I've purchased Snake Eater. It's a lot because as a child, I kept selling and rebuying Snake Eater. This is how I knew it was going to be one of my favorites of all time because I just kept wanting to play it again.
Why would you sell it?
You're a dumb kid. You sell games. That's what you have. You don't have a lot of money, so you sell your video games.
Not my favorite video game.
Well, sometimes you don't think about it like that, Connor. When you're a plebeian.
I think this gives a lot of indication that you don't actually have as much reverence for it as you claim to, seeing as how you sold it.
I mean, at some point I went, oh, no, I'm never doing that again. And I never did it again.
Sounds to me like that element is just kind of make up for all the facts that you cast your favorite game
aside. I'm not gonna get criticized here. I actually played Metal Gear Online. All right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait.
There was a multiplayer mode for Snake Eater.
Oh.
It wasn't good.
Why not?
This is old. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to get into the nerdy news. We are going to start with our first topic of the day. Connor, Xbox had a developer direct.
They did. It was we did a reaction to it, a live reaction, and our thoughts then are probably what we're going to echo now. So, if you want to see more raw, unfiltered footage of us reacting to this, go watch that. That way, you've already clicked on this video, so it gives us the views for it, and then it gives you the views on the other thing. So, go please do that instead of
watch
watching
the whole thing and then come back and hear more in-depth talk of things going on and so forth.
Honestly, we already got their views, Tavin. They can skip this part from here on out.
No, I want them to watch the whole show, Connor.
I do too, but you could do it by coming back and going right to the
And
next
also,
story.
why can't we farm a second click off of them,
We are. That's what we're doing.
30% of the people who watch this video, which is like 2 people, if 30% of the people who watch this video go off, click on that video, and then come back, a lot of views.
That's true.
Relatively.
Not wrong.
Connor, Xbox Developer _Direct 2025 happened this week. They showcased technically 5 different games coming all within this year, all within the first half of the year, with the exception of one. Listen, the Developer Direct continues to be my favorite presentation of the year. I love this format. I love this way of showing games off. I love the deep dives into games. I don't think it needs to happen all the time. I'm glad that it's Xbox that does it and they do it once, right?
With curated titles.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, these are the ones that, hey, we want you to get excited about right now because they're coming soon. And let's really show you why you would want to be interested in this game past just a cool trailer or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I think all 5 games looked fantastic. One of them, of course, just being a remaster. But let's get into it real quick. They started off with their mystery title, which was Ninja Gaiden 4, officially announced, coming fall of this year, hopefully. Fingers crossed. We'll see about that. But then, day and date, Ninja Gaiden 2 Black was announced and released on the same day. You can play that now. It's worth saying all games shown are available on Game Pass. All games shown are available through Xbox Play Anywhere program. Their whole, this is an Xbox thing. Yeah, you can play all these games everywhere. And then they moved into Connor, South of Midnight.
Yes.
Into Clair Obscur, Expedition 33, and then finished off with Doom the Dark Ages. How do we want to handle this? In order?
In order.
Or from the ones that excited us the most?
We already did it in order last time. Let's change it up a little bit. So, I'm assuming we'll probably have different ideas of what our favorites are.
Do we? Doom.
Honestly, time has gone by. I think more of Clair Obscura. More.
Just because it was more. I think Clair Obscura just had more to show you.
It did, yeah. That's why I remember it more.
Doom is Doom.
Yeah.
But,
I love what I saw during
things.
Doom.
But I'm not mad at a coin flip either way. Either way you want to go. Where you want to go?
Go with Doom, because that's the generally most talked about one during that entire showcase, and for good reason. Because, I did see some people complain about it, that it doesn't look like Doom. To a degree, I can understand that.
I can see why they're saying that.
But I can't really, because it seems like a lot of that comes from the fact that you're not moving around as fast as you were in other Doom games, but they add an option to where you can increase the game speed, how quick you're going about things. Because this new one, like how they would do, they specified it during the Direct itself. They would have the run and gun stuff. Then they did the whole, you're jumping around and doing, a lot of acrobatic shit.
So
Doom Eternal.
Doom 16, run and gun.
Yeah.
Doom Eternal, Jump and Gun, I guess they would call it. And then Doom the Dark Ages, they had the tagline of Stand and Fight.
Stand and fight, that's what it was.
So, it's going to be a heavier Doom guy, a heavier combat system than what we're used to. Less fluid, less jumping around, less movement going on.
But more damage you can put.
You're taking more damage, or I would assume you're taking more damage. We didn't really get to see that part. But you're dealing out a lot of damage as well. They changed a lot of they changed the UI entirely to kind of fit the medieval theme that they're going with. And then they added things like the shield, which has a saw, and you can throw the shield around like Captain America and stuff, which is cool. And then you have, of course, the great Doom weapons that were showcased all throughout, which all looked fantastic to deal with.
Skull Crusher.
Lots of Doom enemies. I think the big thing to talk about with this Doom in comparison to Doom 16 and Doom Eternal is the environments. Way bigger. Way larger environments. A little more flat. There seemed to be less jumping. Even in the reaction, I said, I'm sure if we go back and see and watch it again, we could see it for sure. But it didn't even look like they were doing double jumps in the game, which would be very different from what we saw from Doom. The last two Doom games would be very different. But I'm sure it's probably there. I can't imagine a Doom game without it, right? That would be weird. But so many enemies on screen, so much space in the environment, so much room to move around. They're really focusing on how are you combating with each of these things, which was my favorite part about both the other games is sort of the puzzle-like nature of how you took down every room environment. Less so in 16, more so in Doom Eternal, but this one seems to kind of be leaning into that of who's your priority, who's your target, who do you want to take down first, and so forth. I'm very much into everything they showed here. I like the design of the world. I like the switch up from what we've seen before. And I'm more than willing to discover what's new. The only thing I'm not so sure about is Doom 2016 popularized the glory kills system, in which there's like a really cool animation where you're like tearing dudes apart and so forth. This seemed less
much flatter in terms of
this seemed less like full pre-built animation and more of like this is just a super move that'll kill them really fast. So instead of like diving thumbs into eyes and ripping skulls open, it's more of like, I'm just going to kick you and you're going to splatter and go away, right? Don't know how I feel about that yet. Again, going to have to play the game to see how that works in the general feel, but I loved the glory kills in Doom and Doom Eternal. So to see those kind of switch up is a little disappointing for me personally. A lot more melee options going on in this one, of course, with the shield, and then they had a flail, and there was a third option.
Mace. They're going to do a mace like later on. It was like
a mace, or are you talking the flail or the mace?
No, a flail is a ball attached to a chain attached to a handle. A mace is just a handle. It's basically a club.
Okay.
Like an armored club.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
we didn't see what those do, though.
All three of those things, and then they kept bringing up like how many button presses you would need to do each thing. They were always like one button press for all of these. It's contextual. You'll just know you'll know how it works when you play the game, which I think is generally the right move to go when you're talking about these action games and so forth. Just let me know what I'm doing in the space that I'm doing it. And at the end of the day, as long as the thing dies, it doesn't really matter how I get it done, right? As long as I get it done. But yeah, Doom, Dark Ages, I went into this year feeling like it was going to be one of my most anticipated titles. Nothing I saw here showed me any otherwise. Like, this is still one of my most hyped games of the year, if not my most anticipated game of the year.
And something that's particularly interesting is they're seemingly focusing more on a story. Now,
that is another thing I'm curious about.
The quality, the production quality seemed like it was, it had backing behind it.
Yeah.
Not
they
only
didn't show us anything though.
No.
Yeah, it was just like really well shot and lit cutscenes. But the fact that there's cutscenes, they had the line of we're taking the story out of the codex. Yeah. And I'm like, all right, but like that's not why I'm here. Like,
but now it could be.
It could be, and I'm willing to let it be. But that is one thing that I go, oh, I don't know if that's the direction you want to go. But we'll see. We'll see. Of course, I'm always open to more exploration. They look like they took a couple of cues from the latest God of War games in that, and it's less of like, oh, I just found a little secret path and I picked up a thing. It's now more of like, oh, I have to hit this thing or shoot this thing to get another thing to do that to work. And then I get my reward at the end of that. I like that more. That I think is more engaging than just like hopelessly running around hoping to find the right vent that you can dive into and so forth. So like an actual of like, oh, puzzle, got it. Mm-hmm. Cool. Let me do this real quick and then I'll get my upgrade or so forth. So we'll see about that. And then the two big things We're taking you out of the Doomslayer perspective for a little bit. And we're putting you in the eyes of a fucking 30-story tall mech,
which seems to have, combat where you actually interact with other things that are as big as you. Because those things, they can get kind of gimmicky, but it looked like it actually had some substance there.
It still looked a little gimmicky.
But just little bits we've seen. But at least I saw like multiple enemies coming at you at one point. So it's like, how crazy are they going to get with it?
I made the joke during the react. If EA won't make Titanfall, id will.
And if fucking who are they? Microsoft won't make Scalebound, ID will, because you can also ride that dragon. That
can also
dragon
ride
thing,
a dragon. It's going to be different.
That's going to be badass though.
You would be one of the 12 people who's still interested in Scalebound.
It's funny to me because it's like, for everything we know about it was that it was fine and good behind the scenes. Yet they still just.
That's not what I heard.
Yeah.
I imagine if they canceled it for a reason. Yeah, and then of course, you brought it up already. You get to ride like a cyber dragon with like wings and stuff, and you're flying around shooting things. I assume that's going to be sort of like a on rail shooter type segment thing, not like an actual freedom to fly around. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong in that.
You can go crazy with it.
Doom, the Dark Ages. I'm very, very excited for. Very, very interested to see to get my hands on sticks on that. May 15th. 2025, the longest we'll have to wait for any of these games outside of Ninja Gaiden 4, which we'll get to in a second. But let's move on. Clair Obscur Expedition 33. This is a game that was revealed at an Xbox showcase last year, I believe.
It was last year.
During SGF season. And we liked what we saw there, and we really liked what we saw here.
This is one of the highlights of what an Xbox Direct can do, because it's not like Doom, it's not like South of Midnight, which already had a somewhat extensive gameplay trailer. It's not like Ninja Gaiden, which we kind of guess what those kinds of games are like. It's brand new, and it's a turn-based combat, so what are you doing differently? They obviously highlighted that you're going to do active actions while you're doing these turn-based combat, but really I think what stood out was just how well realized the game seems to be.
Yeah.
Both from not only that gameplay perspective, including building your classes up, which seems to be, a nice return to an older JRPGs rather than just having a turn-based combat, one where you can actually customize your team, but also having an extremely interesting premise with an amazing-looking setting that takes inspiration from, like, seemingly folklore. Yeah, I know it's kind of based in, like, France because the developers are French, but just unique concepts. One of the coolest-looking mounts I've seen in quite a while. That's also a character.
It's unique,
yeah,
for
it's
sure.
very unique. It has a cool interactive map. The story beats already seem like they're kind of drawing me in. One of the things, because the entire premise of the game is about, and why it's called Clair Obscur 33, is that in the world, people are dying at a certain age that this giant counter indicates, and it's constantly going down. And now it's at age 33, anybody who is at that age during the Nexus event, whenever that happens, I don't fucking know the exact details, they die off. And some people are trying to solve it by going to this otherworldly place where the solution expectantly is supposed to lie in, and other expeditions have failed, and you're the 33rd expedition. And I remember seeing, it was a moment during that trailer where they had stopped at a point that had a flag that said 73 or something like that.
Oh.
And so it seems like there's going to be some interesting things of looking at past expeditions,
some environmental storytelling,
dive into the mystery of what exactly is going on here. Just a lot of enough there to chew on for a showcase, but not enough to where I'm, I know what I'm going to get out of this game, because it has such a unique identity that it could really, it could fall flat, I guess, but they've just done a really good job of showing this off every single time we've seen it, and there's clear passion behind the project, seeing it go from one guy's idea to a new studio with a multitude of people working in what looks like a mansion that they've rented out. So very cool stuff.
Yeah, so this is a game that I think has the potential to be one of the biggest games of the year, or most impressive games of the year, we'll say. But it also still has that potential to fall a little flat. So I'm still kind of waiting to see on that one. But I am count me excited. Count me, a day one player on this one. And I am very, very, very interested to dive into that world, sort of get its intricacies and so forth. I love things that you kind of already said. The mount is really unique, where it's basically like this big balloon type character that you use to bounce around the actual 3D world map that you enter, a la like a Final Fantasy VII, leaving Midgard type thing. which is great to see that sort of function return. I just kept looking at this game and thinking, see, Final Fantasy, this is where you should have gone. This is where you could have gone to like really keep your fan base strong, but still update your game and still make it accessible in a modern audience, because they are doing a lot of things that you do see in a lot of modern turn-based RPGs, namely the Persona games in terms of like combat, in sort of how you list out your menus. Obviously, Persona is a traditional turn-based, everybody takes their turn, whereas this one's a little more active, just in the sense of like you can guard and counter and like get critical hits off of timing and so forth, like things like Sea of Stars, Paper Mario, things like that. But the way that they communicate to the player how to do your different actions is very Persona-like. Press the X button to do this type of attack, pull the trigger to do this type of attack, pull the other trigger to switch to a different character, things like that. That you see in Persona, that you see in Metaphor ReFantazio, things like that. That's all smart moves to me. I love the art design. I love that we're getting real-looking people on it. It's not cartoonified in any ways. I think this was I genuinely think this is the direction Final Fantasy should have gone post FF13, and for whatever reason they just decided not to. And I think the franchise has struggled to find its own identity since then, outside of some highlights. But 15 isn't the most beloved title. 16 hit or miss depending on who you talk to. And 7 remake series is great, but you're a remake, and how many of those fans are still continuing? And it just doesn't seem to be the most impactful thing happening in the world. And I'm not saying Expedition 33 will be that level of impact, but I am saying that this could prove to Square Enix that, hey, this style of game still works.
I hope it does, because they've worn out, I think, well, at least in their mainline series, the more traditional action adventure combat system, rather than a turn-based one, or even something like a Dragon Age one. Or I don't know what that combat system's called, where it's like you control units and you direct them to attack, but it's on like a real-time system and they're walking around a map and you can pause it. It's kind of a melding of what Final Fantasy VII Rebirth does, but without all of the button presses that goes into that game. I don't know what to call it. But either way, the fact that you can revitalize a game system, a type of game system that is oft looked down on, or at least in the past has been looked down on, I feel like recently we've seen a resurgence of people respecting that kind of gameplay system, and hopefully Final Fantasy will return for it. But Clair Obscura seems like they've got it knocked down.
I will say, in terms of Clair Obscura, the battles seem to get a little like, I don't want to say claustrophobic. They seem to get like just kind of messy. Like the screen just got kind of messy with lots of dirt and mud kind of like getting everywhere. It just kind of made it a little hard to read what was happening on screen. Maybe that's not so much of a problem inside the actual game itself, but just from a viewer's point of view, it was like, wow, like it just looks like things are in my way. Like that I'm just not seeing what you're doing anymore.
Which is probably why they are similarly going for the Atlas style of menu settings when you're in your turn-based combat. Even if I know you've complained about Metaphor in the past, and other people have as well.
I'm not talking the UI. I'm talking the
the cluttering. Yeah,
no. None of like the UI elements. None of that. I'm talking like when a character does an action and then like dirt flies up, or like a character slams on the ground and like the
weapon effects happen. And stuff.
Weapon effects happen and stuff like that. It just seems like those are getting in the way.
Yeah, but I feel like the control scheme of Atlas games, kind of once you get it down, once you know what those buttons do, you don't need to be so visually locked in on everything that's going on, control-wise.
Yes, but these games are super controlled anyways, and you already control the camera, so why are you not giving me the best shot possible to see what's happening? You know what I'm saying? So you, the game, control the camera. You, the game, know what animations are about to play. So like, why am I looking at a thing and going, what happened? There was a rock in my way. Even in your big presentation things where like those should be super curated and edited to give you the best experience, right? Why does it look like there's rocks in my way from seeing what's going on screen? You know what I'm saying? And then on top of that, there was a moment where they opened up a menu and it was like, these are all the different like status effects you could apply to your weapon, and there was like 100 of them, and I was like, whoa, little too much menuing here, but I'll give them grace and say, well, that's probably not like going to happen immediately. It's probably like you're probably going to know what's in there, and it was they you can probably like edit that list down and throw things away and sell things off and stuff like that, so it doesn't look like that always. They probably just sort of exaggerated that moment just to kind of show you that there's, you know, a level of depth with its systems and gameplay here.
There clearly is.
Yeah. But yeah, Expedition, Clair Obscure, Expedition 33. Don't like the name. You don't need the Clair Obscure part. Expedition 33, April 24th, 2025. Very, very interested, very excited to do that. You bet your ass I'm playing that one day one.
Yeah.
That all games coming to PlayStation and just other platforms.
That's what they like to do now.
It is what they like to do, you know. And you know, Xbox CEO Phil Spencer was, you know, making some waves. Did a couple interviews this last weekend, in which he basically just kept affirming that of like, we are going to go where the gamers are because we make money that way, you know. So like, why wouldn't we? Specifically, giving a lot of shout outs to Switch 2, saying he's excited to support Switch 2, and so forth. So, you know, we'll see how that strategy works out for you on the console side. But you know, let's continue on with the developer direct. Moving on into Ninja Gaiden, probably next, right? Yeah. Ninja Gaiden 4, return to the series. You know, long known as sort of a tough as nails action franchise, and it looks like they're continuing that all the way through. They named this year the Year of the Ninja.
Yeah,
we'll see about that. But yeah, this game looks great. I love the sort of switch to giving us a new character, but the switch to sort of a cyberpunk aesthetic now, as opposed to like just like an ancient history one. Still having elements of that, still going back to the older story and the older character and bringing that in and crossing them over and stuff like that. But yeah, everything I saw here, combat looks great, style looks great. Some of the like gameplay movement and action in terms of like how you move throughout the world looked a little stiff to me. Didn't look like that was going to be the great part. But every time that they cut to a boss fight, every time that they cut to just our ninja guy fighting a bunch of dudes, it looked awesome. It looked like so much fun.
I kept thinking about Sekiro because it seems like they're really centering around trading blows with people, which clearly is a big aspect of Sekiro with its parry system. I feel like they may do it differently. I'm interested to see how those combats feel.
They're clearly doing it differently. Sekiro's so much slower. Like, there's less happening in Sekiro than what's happening here. Here, it's clearly like, all right, just a bunch of stuff is happening at once. And yes, there is a parry, but you know, we can't just every game that has a parry, we can't just draw a conclusion to a Sekiro because that's a different thing.
We can't, but how many games involve a parry system where you're not exactly opening them up for some big attack right away, but you're trading a multitude of blows with them as if you were in an actual sword fight, which it seems like that's what it's going towards.
I mean, a number of ones, but Sekiro is the biggest version of that, or the most well-known version of that is. Yeah, I'm interested to play. We don't have a date for it yet, fall 2025, but they did release a day and date, as we already said, Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, which I did a quick Google search as to why they went to 2, and it's a whole mess of things of like, the first one's gotten a couple of different iterations, and the third one's recently gotten a remaster. So this was the one that just made the most sense for them. So I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. You know, if you want to play that, you can play that. Xbox Game Pass, available now on all platforms and so forth. But yeah, I'm actually kind of excited for Ninja Gaiden 4, and I, like almost to the point of like, I might check out Ninja Gaiden 2 Black.
Yeah, I was going on the Xbox store, and it seems like, obviously that's for free on Game Pass, but it seemed like other titles like those remasters. They got a bunch of
they got a bunch of them over there. So yeah, you have, if you want to, before 4 comes out, you have the opportunity to explore the franchise and see all that it has to see. I'm glad that they're keeping sort of their tough as nails perspective on it. They're like, hey, we're gonna punish you. Like, you know, we're co-developed with
Platinum Games
and
Ninja Theory? Is that what it was?
Team Ninja. Last known for Rise of the Ronin and something else more recently something else recently before that. But most recently Rise of the Ronin, which like mechanically was okay, but I didn't love it that much. And but co-developed with Platinum Games under Koei Tecmo. I like the direction we're going here. I think we're in for a fun ride here.
I certainly think so as well. Neo. Maybe that was the last game Team Ninja did. No. Okay, I'll find that out right here. Altair, Venus Vacation, Rise of the Ronin. No,
it doesn't. Matter.
Long Fallen Dynasty.
It doesn't matter, Connor. It doesn't.
It does when they made Stranger of Paradise, Final Fantasy Origin. That matters.
Team Ninja did not make that.
I don't think they did. helped it. Developed by Koei Tecmo's Team Ninja and published by Square Enix.
Weird. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Whatever. Maybe they should slow down and like put more quality into each individual game. And then finally, the one that had us least interested but still looked of quality is South of Midnight.
Same issue from the first time they showed it, which is it's only in gameplay. That's the only.
Yeah.
It's such a big aspect of video games, believe it or not. So it really does bring down our opinion of how this game's going to be. Just because it's never from this showcase and this one, nothing. I was like, it seems kind of generic. It doesn't seem like a lot of it has a lot of weight to it when you're doing those attacks. The plus side, because we were still interested in it, is the story looks very enticing, which is helped along by that amazingly beautiful art style and stellar sounding performances from the little bit we've seen.
Sure.
Yeah, and
world design. Yeah, the
mystery elements that seem to be included.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and just sort of some of the choices they've made. having that character Hazel, something like that. Hazel. Her weapon kind of being like spool and yarn, and then like a thing, and she's like sort of altering reality with those things. All that's really cool. It's a bunch of really great and cool ideas in a world that I want to explore and be a part of. The music was standout for me here. The music was so good. I adored everything they were playing. But yeah, that combat just does not look super satisfying to me. It looks fine. Like doesn't
look bad.
It looks passable. Like at worst, it looks like
passable.
At worst, it looks meh. At worst it looks meh, but it looks passable. It looks like it'll be good enough. And if this game's like a cool 6 to 8 hours long, totally fine with that. The problem is if they start dipping into those double digits, that's where I'm like, oh, you look like you're overextending yourself here and so forth. And I don't think they will do that, but who knows? I could see it reaching like a dozen hours or so.
That's what I'm thinking. It seems like one of those games.
That's a little long for me for what I'm seeing from a gameplay perspective here, but it's enough to make me want to kick the tires and try it out. I have to look up the release date for this one. Have it here.
I believe it's in April. Well,
it is in April. It's earlier in April 8th, 2025 for that one. So
the first one out of all these games to be released.
It's gonna be the first. Yeah, in order: South of Midnight, Clair Obscur, Doom: The Dark Ages, and then somewhere along that line, Ninja Gaiden 4 is coming. But yeah, and we didn't even say it. Like, we didn't have a real talk about it. But like, yeah, just the jumping into the life of every developer and their studio works and so forth. Like, it was so nice seeing just the difference in how they even handled their own individual presentations. Where South of Midnight was like, "Hey, we're going to talk to you about our game, what we're excited about. This is what's going great and so forth about it. Here's the lead voice actor coming and talk to you about the world of the game and so forth." Where then Clair Obscur said, "No, man, we're doing crazy production quality as we talk to you about this, and we're gonna have these cuts to our different dev team leaders and members and so forth." And then Id being very much like, "We're back, baby! Come check us out. We're here." That was all fun. Again, I love these developer directs. I love that Xbox does them. I hope they continue to do them. I think they seem to be just a continuous success as they keep happening. We started back in 2022 with these, and it just continuously always feels like we get to the end of them and go, "Wow, this was great. This was a great time." And now, Connor, I want to jump to sort of where does this put Xbox now? Last year felt like it was okay-ish year for Xbox. It feels like we've been on the end of a couple of those, but not a lot of banger years coming from Xbox. This one feels like we might have our first banger year from Xbox in years.
Especially because all of these games are being announced for this part of the year.
Yeah.
So now, the fact that they did say Ninja Gaiden's coming out later in fall could indicate that not only are they not going to really have many games, or if they do, it's only going to be one or two past that point. But I feel like Microsoft's loading it in the front half before getting the next round, ready for the last bit.
Listen, we've always talked about how Xbox, it feels like they're building and it feels like they're getting their feet under them. This feels like finally we're here. Finally, the dominoes are falling. Yeah. Finally, we're seeing the games release. It's just, to me, unfortunate that it also comes off the back of them breaking down the walls. We're putting our games everywhere. So why would I go and buy an Xbox? I was so close to going and buying an Xbox for myself, and then they let the walls down. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, I can play Doom: The Dark Ages day one on my PlayStation. I'm gonna do that. I can play. Oh, you know what? I think I misspoke earlier. South of Midnight, I believe, is Xbox exclusive for the first who knows how long, but it will be coming. Rest assured, it will be coming eventually to everywhere else. Inevitable. You know, and so forth. So yeah, I'm feeling really, really good, really strong about Xbox's 2025. I don't think any of these games are like, oh my god, like S tier crazy banger level games, but these are really great looking games, and I want to play all of them. Which is, I think, the first time I can say that about a developer direct where I go, oh no, I need to play every one of these games. Just try them out at least, you know? Even though South of Midnight I'm less hot on, but like the rest of the game looks so creative and flushed out that I'm like, oh wow, yeah. That's something I do want to say. All of these games look like they have a specific vision, and they look like they are capitalizing on those visions like in its entirety. Like they look like fully fleshed out ideas here, which is great, great to see from Xbox, because that's something that has been sorely lacking for the last couple of years now. So yeah, I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see what they bring in the summertime in SGF season with whatever showcase that they do there. And I'm excited to see whatever they have on the back end. Is there a chance that we see something like maybe a Perfect Dark or something coming this year? Fable, still a question mark on?
I think no. Those seem like next year games.
I think Fable's this year.
You think so?
Yeah, Perfect Dark we'll see, but I think Fable's this year.
They just haven't shown any like real gameplay for that.
No, they have.
When?
A couple
like really
times now.
extensive game. And
no, they've done it like twice.
They shown like if they've done it twice though.
We've seen in their last showcase we saw like combat and.
It wasn't. It was extremely limited though, wasn't it? Like only like little flashes.
I wouldn't call it extremely limited, but it wasn't. It wasn't like in depth like a dev direct type thing. But it was there. You know, you're getting an action game here. You know, or like an action RPG type game here. So yeah, I'm moderately interested in Fable. I am waiting to see more on that, like the ramp up to it. But yeah, I think Fable's this year, and then who knows what else they've got in the tuck. Probably somewhere that maybe we just don't know about that they have planned out or something. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Where's Double Fine? Where are they at?
Making Brutal Legend 2.
No, they're definitely not making that. Anyways, Connor, let's move on to our second topic of the day.
Only the fucking second? Jesus.
Yeah, I know. We do a lot of talking on this show. Your first penny of the day. Take it away, my friend. It's worth noting, of course, the stories that we read here on this podcast, you can catch and read them all yourself over at TwoPennyGamesNews.substack.com. At least for the next two stories. The final story was a bit of a breaking news thing, and we didn't have time to write it out ourselves. Connor, you are the one who writes these articles. Thank you so much for doing that. So let's go ahead and take it away with topic number 2.
Yes, EA reveals Dragon Age The Veilguard and EA Sports FC25 underperformed in new report. The preliminary results will be fully announced on February 4th. Electronic Arts, Inc., EA, lowers their growth expectations for 2025 following dissatisfying sales for both EA Sports FC25 and Dragon Age The Veilguard, with the bulk of the blame laid on EA Sports FC's shoulders. The report states, quote, EA's initial guidance for fiscal year 2025 anticipated mid-single-digit growth in live service net bookings. However, the company now projects a mid-single-digit decline, with global football accounting for the majority of the change, end quote. EA goes on to elaborate that despite the 2 previous years of double-digit growth from global football, as well as early momentum following the release of EA Sports FC this year, sales would begin to fall off as the fiscal third quarter continued, leading to the altered projection for the subsequent year. Although not attributed to the reduced projections, the report goes on to disclose Dragon Age gained 1.5 million players, failing company expectations by 50%. A Rolling Stones interview with BioWare creative director John Epler unveiled there were no plans for Dragon Age DLC, as focus had entirely shifted toward the announced untitled entry in the Mass Effect franchise. Quote, as a result, EA is providing preliminary results for its third fiscal quarter and updating its fiscal year 2025 net bookings outlook, the report reads. It now expects net bookings of approximately $2.215 billion for the third fiscal quarter and an updated range of $7 billion to $7.150 billion for fiscal year 2025, end quote. Continuing, during quote Q3, we continued to deliver high-quality games and experiences across our portfolio. However, Dragon Age and EA Sports FC25 underperformed our net booking expectations. EA CEO Andrew Wilson interjects. This month, our team delivered a comprehensive gameplay refresh in addition to our annual Team of the Year update in FC25. Positive player feedback and early results are encouraging. We remain confident in our long-term strategy and expected return to growth in fiscal year 26 as we execute against our pipeline, end quote. EA is set to publish It Takes Two developer Hazelight Studios' new game, Split Fiction, in early March, but EA's catalog for the remainder of 2025 remains shrouded in mystery, with only a slew of mostly unnamed titles with no release dates planned for the future. So EA has not been in the most pretty of situations. Clearly, they were banking a lot on Dragon Age: The Veilguard and their annual, FIFA game or FIFA replacement with EA Sports, but clearly,
really just a brand change.
It's really just a brand change, yeah. But it's not hitting. It's not doing it. And I was looking up. People were apparently dissatisfied with this new version of the game, which probably attributes to why it's not, carrying them through the rest of the year, since those games typically are as big as they are. Between this and some Ubisoft news we'll talk later, it continues the trend that we really saw last year of a lot of uncertainty in the games industry with a lot of the big names. Last 2 years, really, yes. EA, of course, here, Ubisoft, the other one being Embracer Group canceling and changing the expectations of what exactly their company is doing. It's for those of you that might have thought that this year is going to be better, it's not the best news out the gate. It's not as doom and gloom as some other things might be, like the Ubisoft story we'll cover later. But
this time last year, I want to say Microsoft laid off like 1,000 people, something like that. So we're still having layoffs, we're still having studio closures, and we're still having games not meet expectations with whatever vague amount that means or whatever. And that is the case here. It's worth noting Dragon Age: The Veilguard did break records in terms of like day 1, or 3-day sales and stuff like that. So out the gate, Dragon Age was showing strong and then tapered off quickly, which is unfortunate because it did feel like a little bit of a return to form for BioWare, at least a step in the right direction for BioWare. You and I played it. We didn't really talk about it a lot on camera. We liked the game fine, but it didn't really like blow our socks off or anything like that. Like in a year that was quite competitive, it failed to really garner a lot of attention. But by no means a bad game. I would say even a good game. Just not the best thing that you could experience in the industry right now, especially in that genre, which was highly, highly competitive last year with RPGs last year. FC25. Unfortunate that it's not meeting sales. That's sort of our EA cash cow, always has been. And so if that one starts faltering, that's a real problem that they need to figure out. And I think especially, if FC is not working, then EA is in trouble now. Now, what does that mean? What is that going to lead to? I don't know. As you put in the article here, Split Fiction is coming down the pipeline. I am excited about that game. I am interested in that game. But I actually revisited It Takes Two last night with my girlfriend. Tried it out. Man, that game's mid.
It's overrated.
It's definitely it's fine. Like, it's so super fine. So I'm really, really hoping that Hazelight really steps up this time around and gives us a game that really, really kind of blows me out of the water and shows me that, like, oh, okay. All right, we are on an upward trend, which I do believe they have been on an upward trend. But I just hope that this is a bigger step up than what we've seen before.
The most unique thing about all of this is we've talked in the past about when layoffs happen or when we get reports of how good a game is doing, underperformed, didn't meet our expectations. We've always had an issue with it because it's super vague, whatever the fuck that means. This is the only time I think we've talked about it where we can actually know what their expectations are for Dragon Age Veilguard. If they're saying their expectations were reduced by 50%, they got 1.5 million players. They were shooting for 3 million.
2.
What?
No. 2, right?
2?
By 50%? Oh, no, you're right. 3.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that was their, I guess they were expecting that many to sell. Unfortunately, it did not. It's not like Mass Effect, which is their brand recognizable game to, gamers everywhere. But even then, Dragon Age had a lot of momentum behind it, and the fact that it, and it got good reviews as well. It wasn't, blasted out the gate. And the fact that it still didn't meet those high expectations, which admittedly I feel like weren't really unreasonable. 3 million sales for a game that people have been asking for years, that have been in development for years and has had a lot of hype behind it. I see that. I can really see that not being, you know,
I mean, I guess,
being
but like,
disappointing.
was Dragon Age ever a big seller like that? I don't know if it was. Like, the biggest example would probably be Inquisition, which I'm sure sold well, but I'd have to go and look at numbers of that if you would have grabbed that real quick while I rant. But I just don't think Dragon Age is the franchise that would really put us on the map like that. I think those expectations are kind of crazy, and of course, the big problem with the expectations quote is not so much the like unreasonable sales numbers, but so much of like the budgets being inflated and going off way off the mark of where they probably should be to have a more sustainable industry.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the problem. Is the industry is unsustainable at the level of production that we are working at right now. We need to pull everything back. It shouldn't require 5-6 years to develop a video game just for it to get canceled in year 4 or something like that. Go ahead.
Well, I'm seeing maybe they did have reasonable expectations. As far as lifetime sales, I know that's not 3 months.
Yeah.
It's 12 million for Inquisition.
Good.
For Dragon Age Origins, going all the way back then, in 3 months, it sold 3.2 million.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right. And then I'm trying to go.
Such a different time, though. I mean, Dragon Age Origins, you're coming off of KOTOR off of that one. Like, whereas here, we're coming off of Anthem and what was the other one? Mass Effect Andromeda.
Oh yeah.
We're coming off of two big duds with BioWare. It's reasonable to say that the fan base has kind of been a little like soured and trepidatious, and on top of that, like Veilguard did not appeal to OG Dragon Age fans. Like it was shooting for a new market. It was going for a new direction. I didn't hate that new direction, but we set it off, Mike. Dragon Age should have reacted to The Witcher 3. It should not have reacted to God of War. And for whatever reason, the Veilguard reacts to God of War, which is a strange choice to make here.
Yeah, I mean, I will just sell it and like go forward. Dragon Age 2, which was not received well, got 1 million copies in the first 2 weeks, over 2 million copies in 2 months. Inquisition. It seems like this might not be the most strong number, but it's appearing according to some Steam community shit. It's in the first week it sold 1.14 million, which I mean, given those expectations and where EA's right now, maybe 3
but again,
million wasn't the most.
Veilguard was the like fastest selling in like a short amount of time or whatever. So Veilguard made the majority of its sales in the first like couple of days or weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. So like. It just kind of seems like that's the typical trend. And then I guess they were just expecting for that to continue, and it didn't, is really what the problem is. But I'll still contest, excuse me. The problem is not so much with Dragon Age, though, sure, it didn't hit expectations. Okay. But the problem is not so much with Dragon Age as it is with Football Club. Like, that is your moneymaker. You are making billions of dollars off of that. And so if you're not meeting financial expectations off of that, that's where we're really going to start bleeding.
Reading the report, it specifically like specifies that being the main cause of their downturn in projections for the following year. They said separately, here's what Dragon Age did. So it wasn't even tied to the whole we're changing our projections for what the rest of the year is going to be like. And especially because FC is a game that constantly gets money. It's supposed to be a constant cash cow.
Yeah.
Whereas Dragon Age, it can sell tons of money, just like any of their other single player games. But at a certain point, it's people aren't going to play it anymore, especially when you don't have DLC playing. So it's
that's my thing too. Is like with the expectations of Dragon Age, like what were they really shooting for? I would assume they were just shooting for more of like people can start trusting in BioWare a little bit again. Like people can feel good about that because. This one has been in the cooker for a long time, long time. And again, we're coming off of two of the bigger duds that the studio has ever, received. If EA themselves was like, BioWare, you don't need to make a DLC for this, and BioWare's like, cool, yeah, we're interested in moving on.
Yeah.
Like that to me tells me that like it was more about getting a win under their belt. It was more about getting a win under the belt than it was about making a bunch of money. Now, This is a business, and EA is very business-minded, so that can't happen again.
Mm-hmm.
This next Mass Effect needs to bang, is kind of the problem here.
And they're putting the workers on it, so clearly they know that.
Yeah.
But will that happen?
Well,
I don't know,
that's a wait and see on that one.
Because I don't think necessarily Veilguard gained trust back from BioWare's past in recent years. Like, it might have been, no one's ragging on it, like they may have did with Anthem or Andromeda to a degree.
I think it allowed the fan base to kind of give a little bit of a sigh of relief of oh, okay, this one's not bad.
Fair enough.
Oh, okay, this one's all right.
Maybe not the most confidence boosting thing to say, but
listen, man, Anthem was bad.
Yeah.
Anthem was really, really bad. Andromeda wasn't great. So to have this one that's better than both of those games, that's oh, okay, all right. Well, we can, we can deal with this. Some people, and again, there were people out here who were perfectly satisfied with Dragon Age: The Veilguard.
Yeah,
who were more than happy with Dragon Age: The Veilguard. It is some people's favorite game that they played that year or whatever. It just it wasn't ours. And that's that. At that point, we're just down to subjectivity on that. And even I'm sitting here and I'm there's characters and there's storylines in there that I would like to see continue. It's just my issue was a little more gameplay focused and so forth, but it wasn't bad gameplay by any means either. So I don't know. It's 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other.
I know that saying.
Make a better Mass Effect. That's
please.
You need to make a better Mass Effect, and I think clearly, I think the big problem is that the gameplay direction that they want to go doesn't work for what Dragon Age is. Does kind of work for what Mass Effect is.
Yes, it does.
My expectations, here on January 25th, 2025, Mass Effect, the next Mass Effect is going to be a better game than Dragon Age: The Veilguard.
I have a rug pull for you, Tavin.
Yeah?
It's the 27th.
Oh, shit. Take everything I said back. Moving on. Topic number 3, my second penny of the day. Insomniac Games founder and president Ted Price announces departure from games industry. The company will transition to 3 co-studio heads. Insomniac Games founder and CEO Ted Price announced his resignation this past Wednesday after nearly 30 years at the company, with Price set to withdraw at the end of March. Quote, "Last week, I felt comfortable announcing to the Insomniac team that after having been incredibly fortunate to enjoy such a fulfilling career in games, I'll be retiring from the industry at the end of March," Price wrote on a Sony blog post. The announcement further disclosed the company which will be led by senior leaders at Insomniac, including head of creative Chad Desern, Chief Brand Officer Ryan Schneider, and Head of Finance Jen Huang. Quote, "I believe strongly that for us to continue our success, we need leaders at the top who are intimately familiar with how we do things, leaders who have helped build our culture and our processes, and who have earned people's trust," says Price. Following the news, the Academy of Interactive Arts and Science declared Price will be inducted into their Hall of Fame at the upcoming DICE Awards for, quote, "overseeing the creation of iconic franchises throughout his extensive tenure at Insomniac, overseeing titles from Spyro all the way to Marvel's Spider-Man game series." According to Variety, the new studio heads will control separate aspects of the company, with Desern overseeing creative and development processes, Schneider facilitating internal and external communication, and Huang in charge of content and operation groups. Wrapping up the post, Price said, quote, "I want to thank every Insomniac for having a positive and lasting impact on my life. Working side by side with Insomniacs for so many years has been a gift that I'll cherish for the rest of my days." Insomniac is currently working on Marvel's Wolverine, continuing their production of superhero video games, with leaks indicating that the eventual announcement of a Venom title. We'll see about that Venom title.
We will.
We'll see.
Yeah.
That's one of those ones that I'm not too sure if that one's ever going to see the light of day.
I hope it kind of does. I like
the Venom parts are cool, but how do you make that fit into the overall story? Anyways, hey, salute to Ted Price, man. That's an OG. Been with Insomniac from the beginning, obviously, because he's a founder of it. But you always hear in developer interviews, Brian Intihar, who is the creative director on the Spider-Man games, always talks very highly about Ted Price. You always hear very good things about Ted Price in the industry and so forth. So, salute. 30 years, more than earned your rest there, buddy. So. Congratulations on a very successful career. I mean, Insomniac is a studio that never really lost it, never really, took a major dip. I mean, sort of like a less interesting period in the PS3 era, but, people like Resistance. Those Ratchet and Clank games are still good, They don't. I don't know if Insomniac has produced a bad video game outside of Fuse. Fuse not great, but that's not their fault. That was an EA thing, But
and we know EA doesn't have their shit together.
Well, that was especially in the time where EA was really not great. That was the bad EA times. I'd say EA is doing okay right now. Clearly not financially, but in terms of their business practices, they're doing okay right now. But yeah, Insomniac is one of my favorite studios, has always been one of my favorite studios, from early days with things like Ratchet & Clank, looking back on things like Spyro the Dragon, and then, of course, my love for Spider-Man, and, they've created the best Spider-Man games. They've created, in my opinion, the best superhero games ever made with those two games and so forth. So, yeah, excited to see what happens to Insomniac in the future. Excited to see what new creative ventures they take from here. Yeah, we kind of already know sort of the game plan. We're going to get Wolverine out the door. We're going to do probably another Ratchet and Clank at some point. Venom titles hinted at. We're doing a third Spider-Man. So Insomniac is going to be around for a little while, and they're going to be making superhero games for a while. But I am interested to see something new from Insomniac.
I am as well, and maybe with Ted Price leaving, you'll see that happen more likely. I'm interested to see what the state of the company is going to be like now that he's gone. Because he seems to have confidence in the people that he's putting in his position now.
Yeah.
And they clearly have worked in the industry, especially Dizern, I believe he was, or is it Schneider? The one who's been with, one of them has been with the company since like 99 or some.
Oh, okay.
Back during Spyro days.
Yeah.
So they seem like they would know what they're doing, but you never know. I mean, the company could have done as well as they had all these years because Ted Price was at the head. The fact that he was an unchanging factor there could indicate that that's the thing that's made the company as strong as it has been. I think overall, though, they're most likely going to be fine.
Insomniac in the modern era, Ted Price has not been the creative director on any of those games or anything.
No.
So I can't speak to anything before Sunset Overdrive, but everything after that, Ted Price has just been an executive leading the captain of the ship type things and so forth. So it's just interesting to see where we go from here. The three heads thing seems a little bit more collaborative. So Insomniac and pretty much all game development is a heavily collaborative space. So I hope that this is a good change for Insomniac as a whole. And so on and so forth. So I listen. This does not shake my faith in Insomniac at all. I fully believe that Insomniac is going to continue to be one of the best studios in the world, and is continue to be putting out high caliber, consistently high quality games from now until who knows how long, the future or whatever. So they just don't really have a miss, not one from their own personal staples,
Yeah.
In terms of their major games. There's a couple of spin-off Ratchet games that weren't so highly received or whatever, but I don't think there's ever been really bad Ratchet games. And even in that,
yeah.
They've always got another game coming around the corner that's going to be awesome. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, salute Ted Price. Odd that we're losing two veteran PlayStation associated people so early in this year, being Shuhei Yoshida and Ted Price both retiring from their positions here.
That was the thing, because it was constantly framed from, I'm leaving the games industry.
Yeah,
he's retiring from that.
Yeah,
I don't know if he's exactly retiring wholesale, because I was looking up his age. He's only 53, 52, and usually when these people who leave these industries, they're older and they've been I'm done. Obviously, he served his time.
Shuhei.
But in terms of Shuhei, for example. But the fact that he's still fairly young in terms of how old people can get, I wonder what he's going to do from here on out. Maybe it'll be video game adjacent, like movies.
I imagine he's made a good amount of money. He could probably chill for a little bit.
That's what I was thinking he would do. Yeah. But he like I said, he only specified, I'm retiring from the games industry, not that I'm retiring in general. We'll see what else he does.
You're allowed to do that. And at some point with all of these companies, we're just in an era where a lot of these companies started 30 years ago, and so it's just time for a lot of these people who have been around from the beginning start handing the reins off to somebody new, I imagine we're going to see a couple more of these in the next coming couple of years, where a lot of oh shit, you've been around forever, you're stepping down? All right, cool. You're one of the guys who laid the foundation of the industry down, and you're going away? Okay. All right, sure.
New world.
It's going to happen eventually, and we're at that period of time where 30 years, 40 years later, yeah, it's time. It's time for some new faces or something, or time for new directions and so forth. And I think you kind of feel that in the industry as a whole. It kind of feels like there's time for change.
A little bit of a nice state of mind to put you in. Hideo Kojima's, he's going to do it till he dies. So there you go. At least you get more of him.
Yippee.
What? You're not happy?
I don't know how I feel about Kojima. You know?
Really, you don't?
I mean, well, ask me after Death Stranding 2. That's my thing.
God.
You know?
You show all the support for his games, you're the biggest fan, and then you cast
First
doubt
of all,
on
I'm
the
not
moment
his
you get
biggest
to.
fan. I'm not his biggest fan.
You talk about Metal Gear all the time. Metal Gear Solid 3 is your favorite game.
It is.
You're a big fan.
We have a review next week.
Yeah.
Very excited to talk about it.
I know you are.
Very excited. I'm gonna fucking fight you guys if you get listen. If this game's not above Hades, I don't know what the fuck we're on.
Not above Hades.
You know?
I don't know what we're on.
Game's
He
better
thinks
than
he's
Hades.
so fucking confident.
Better than Hades. Hades is great. Hades is one of the greatest games ever made. This game's better than Hades. So fucking good. Spoilers for next week.
Mm-hmm.
Is it though?
No.
Moving on, Connor. Our final topic of the day. Your final penny of the day. Take it away, friend.
Yes, indeed. This is from Eurogamer. Tom Phillips writes, Ubisoft announces studio closure as it lays off 185 staff. Ubisoft is set to close its UK studio based in Leamington as it sheds 185 jobs across the business. A small number of Leamington staff will be retained under remote contracts. Additionally, Ubisoft offices in Dusseldorf, formerly Blue Byte, Stockholm, and the Newcastle-based Ubisoft Reflections will be downsized. Quote, as part of our ongoing efforts to prioritize projects and reduce costs that ensure long-term stability at Ubisoft, we have announced targeted restructurings at Ubisoft Dusseldorf, Ubisoft Stockholm, and Ubisoft Reflections, and the permanent closure of Ubisoft Leamington site. Quote, end quote, a Ubisoft spokesperson said in a statement to Eurogamer. Quote, unfortunately, this should impact 185 employees overall. We are deeply grateful for their contributions and are committed to supporting them through this transition. End quote. Founded in 2002 as Freestyle Games by a group of former Rare and Codemasters veterans, Ubisoft Leamington had most recently worked as a support studio on the Tom Clancy's The Division series, and also assisted development on games such as Star Wars Outlaws, Skull and Bones, and Far Cry 5. That sucks.
Yeah,
And-
that's unfortunate. Listen, Ubisoft is continuing to be a company that is dying. Like, so clearly dying. It would not surprise me by the end of the year if they are sold off to something, Tencent, most likely.
There's been talks for a while now.
Yeah, happening before the end of this next year coming up. And yeah, like Assassin's Creed Shadows previews came out. They're not super glowing, you know?
No.
I didn't look too deeply in them. Are they really bad?
Apparently, it's pretty disappointing across the board.
Oh no!
Yeah.
sounds
Not
like sounds like you should throw a counterpick down.
But there's no one chose that game. Someone choose it over this week? Who fucking chose it?
What do you think,
Phil?
Yes,
I'm doing that right now.
you should probably do that right now, buddy. Like,
I actually didn't look to see our most recent fantasy critic because
that's not recent. That's like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I looked recently. There's no way.
he grabbed Shadows first week.
No.
Yeah,
You're fucking lying.
no, yeah. He's had it for a while.
Because I would have kind of picked that a while ago if I remember seeing
Oh
that.
yeah. You got to be on top of that thing.
I mean, it wasn't that long ago when Ubisoft closed a studio that made an objectively amazing game. The Prince of Persia, the Lost Crown studio.
Yep. No idea.
No idea?
No
See,
idea.
they weren't given their just desserts, which is why we don't know about it.
One of the best games of last year. So
It was.
fucking good. So fucking good.
Definitely one of the most underrated as well. But it was, yeah, they're dying. You know, I remember I was, ever since the Ubisoft deal, the Blizzard Activision deal went through, I was like, okay, I was still unsure about whether that was a good thing to do in the first place, due to the fact that, as a general rule, one company or a few large companies in the games industry owning a number of studios isn't ideal. It's far from ideal, as a matter of fact. But in that case, due to the harassment that was going on at Blizzard Activision, I was giving it a bit more leeway of like, maybe it's a good thing to buy the studio and push those people out. Overall, whether that's, you know, a valid thing to think at the time remains to be seen.
Yeah.
In fact, I'd probably more likely say I would take back my my overall
I'm not there yet.
happiness of them being sold off. Yeah, it's still up in the air. this is one of those I'm more comfortable saying, I hope they get bought off, because as it's standing right now on their own, they're just dying slowly and getting rid of their people who are losing their jobs anyway. And so it seems like at this point, the only option is to slowly degrade over time and eventually lose all of your employees or sell it off, get the people who are obviously making bad decisions for how to run that company out of there, and potentially getting Ubisoft back on the right track.
Now, to me, it's not so much a matter of are they going to be sold, it's a win. And how degraded is Ubisoft as a brand going to be when they do eventually sell, and to who, you know? Mm-hmm. I've been in the last couple of years very much disenfranchised by what Ubisoft has been doing, their choices that they've made. Prince of Persia last year was such a bright spot, and then to see that studio get closed in that fashion was so heartbreaking. Mm-hmm. Star Wars Outlaws being such a clear run up to bat and then just swinging a hard miss. Things like Rainbow Six Extraction and the last Mario and Rabbids game not hitting as hard as they wanted it to. And it just seems like Ubisoft just can't catch a win. Assassin's Creed has been hit or miss for years. Even though I've liked, I loved Odyssey. Valhalla was okay.
Mm-hmm. People liked a lot. People like Valhalla.
People like Valhalla. So yeah, that trilogy of games I've thought really put some juice back into Assassin's Creed, and it doesn't look like Shadows is going to be capitalizing on that either. So yeah, we're gonna have to see with all of those things, and it's just, yeah, man, it's unfortunate to see a gaming titan who is so prevalent and so influential and so impactful for so many years in so many different ways. I mean, reaching all the way back to PlayStation 2 era. With a lot of those early Prince of Persia games and Rabbids games and PlayStation 1, even with Rayman and so forth. Like, there's a lot of stuff that they really, really did a lot of work for, and to see that, all of that seemingly just come to an end, it just looks like we've just gone in a direction and we're too far gone now to pull it back. It feels like that way. So yeah, sort of continuing that conversation of, we were hoping this year is going to be an easier year on the games industry. It feels like it's so far, but it doesn't mean we're done.
Easier also being relative to last year.
I'm just hoping the bleeding is stopping. That's what I'm hoping is, we're still losing, but we're cauterizing wounds, mm-hmm. And things are happening that way. So, of course we're going to have to wait and see on all that. 3 months could pass by, another 4,000 people could lose their jobs, and I could totally be like, nope, yeah, no, it's still bad.
Since we're on that line of topic, the big thing in the recent news was a lot of the tech industries over here in the U.S. preparing to have AI be the next big push, only for a Chinese company to just, basically open source an AI machine that's better than anything we have out right now and for free. And stocks are down, to say the least. So I'm wondering if that's going to impact, Ubisoft. I don't feel they will, but when it comes to the economy, I have no clue, how connected things are and whether, the failure in one industry will resound into another, which you wouldn't expect it to do. I don't know. That's been my thought process since this news was announced.
Also, from an American perspective, we have a madman entering the highest place of power in the United States, and he has no clear economic plan that is going to benefit the American people in any way.
Tariffs.
Anyways, yeah. Listen, I hope that this is sort of... I hope we can just find a new normal in all of this. And it's unfortunate that so many jobs have had to be lost in the process of this, and they're going to continue to be lost in here. We're not done. But I'm just hoping that we don't wake up in 2 weeks and it's another 1,500 gone from Xbox, or another, 1,200 gone from PlayStation, or Square Enix lost 800 people in one day or something like that. I hope those days are over. It's unfortunate that we're losing, nearly 200 people here. But that's a significantly smaller number than the numbers we were dealing with last year. And here's my thing. If this is the biggest number we see in a while, that's progress.
We'll take it,
I guess. But it's tricky. So, of course, we're going to have to wait and see on all of that. I don't have faith in Ubisoft, and especially if Shadows doesn't hit, which it doesn't look like it's going to. Ubisoft is going to continue to take hits on top of that. It doesn't look like EA's in the best spot. But we're hoping that some of these bigger publishers figure it out. Look, it looks like we're in for a big year from Xbox. It looks like we're in a big year for Nintendo. So hopefully those guys will be good. PlayStation, ? Concord flopped really hard. And they've canceled a lot of games. So PlayStation may not be in that great of a spot right now. But we're going to have to wait and see on all of that. And of course, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, you forgot one thing.
What?
Assassin's Creed Shadows?
Uh-huh.
Maybe the key here. The best thing, delay it.
No.
They've never done that before.
No, they can't. No.
I know.
It's got to hit the fiscal year.
Yeah.
And they're kind of at the breaking point of that. So,
yes, they are.
Yeah, no, you're not seeing any more delays for Assassin's Creed Shadows. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to see what happens next, make sure you like, subscribe, comment down below with all of the good stuff that we got coming down the pipeline. Make sure you drop a comment down below so that next week we can incorporate an audience 2 pennies. No great comments this week. Step your shit up.
Damn. Go comment yourself.
Why would I need to comment myself? I'm here talking.
Yeah, make a burner account, get the blood flowing in the channel, and then people think, wow, people are interested in talking here.
Until next time, have a great time. And Connor, say goodbye to the people.
Tell me that's a good idea.
It's not.
Fuck off.